Hello and welcome to another episode of this thing I call Chosen Idea. Here we are at Toronto's Distillery District. I've been here before to do a color test, and that's what I'm doing tonight. Well, hopefully at least. I think we've lost all our light, but we'll see if we can get some. Hey there, well here I am again. Yeah, obviously that didn't work out. I did end up going out the next day to get the footage I needed for those color tests on my lunch, and I think it worked out okay. So that brings me to these color tests. What are these color tests about? Well, there's a guy, his name's Harv. He's got a channel called Harv Video and Audio Stuff. I've been a fan of his channel for a while, and way back when he did this thing about these LUTs called Phantom LUTs by a guy named Joel Fumalaro. And these are basically film emulation to emulate the color that you get out of an ARRI. Joel has an ARRI camera, so he's been able to very accurately match color between a few different cameras and the ARRI, and has created LUTs for conversion from log from these various cameras to a look that approximates ARRI quite closely from what I've seen anyways. So it's been a while now that I've been wanting to try these LUTs, and I downloaded Joel's most recent generation of the LUTs. There's something like 40 bucks for each pack. There's 2 packs. One is a set of conversions from S-Log 2 and 3 to ARRI, and then there's like a neutral one, and then there's ones that include a few different color variations. And then he's got another pack that's a complete like styles pack, basically a film looks pack, which is like another 5 LUTs. And so each are $40, and of course you can buy them together in a set as well. Or they 50 and then together you get them for 80. Or I don't know, anyway, something like that. Just Google Phantom LUTs and Joel's page will come up. So what I've done is I've shot a bunch of S-Log 2 footage out of my A7C. Joel hasn't got any LUTs specifically labeled A7C, but he recommends people who are using A7C to use his S-Log 2 LUTs, and that would be because it's a general rule of thumb nowadays that one stay away from S-Log 3 if they're shooting with an 8-bit Sony. And the A7C's color is the closest to the A7S3's color, yes. And so Joel's LUT designed for the A7S3 is the one that he recommends for A7C users. And he does have an S-Log 2 version specifically for those people using 8-bit cameras. Anyway, so that's the one you want if you buy this set of LUTs from Joel. Right, so how do they look? Well, of course I have to test these things out for myself. Got a upcoming trip as well, perhaps. Maybe it'll be worth it to shoot it in S-Log 2, I don't know. For those of you wondering if you see any softness or any bloom to this episode, the entire thing has been shot with Tiffin Glimmer Glass on the camera. It's the Glimmer Glass number 3. Some people may feel that's a little bit heavy-handed. They'd go with the Glimmer Glass 1. For those of you not familiar with Glimmer Glass, it's a popular filter amongst Hollywood types for knocking a little bit of that digital edge off your images. I know that the Pro Mist filters have been very popular, although I feel that they give images a little bit too much of that soap opera look. But I'm kind of just testing it out myself. I actually used it in an episode a few episodes back, and hopefully the combination of the filter and what Joel's done with these LUTs will make a positive difference in the footage that I shoot. I don't know if I'll be switching over to using it for my episodes or just the projects that I do on the travel films, but we'll see. There are some other projects that I'm looking forward to doing next year. Oh, by the way, this is the last episode of Season 3. I am looking forward to Season 4. The first episode will likely be shot in Iceland. We're going to be taking off 2 weeks from now on that trip, and we'll be spending 2 weeks there as well. So it should provide a lot of opportunity to get some amazing footage out there. don't want to screw it up. So color tests and color tests, I guess, right? So let's switch over to those samples that I shot. Then I'll switch over to show you how I actually applied the LUT in DaVinci Resolve. And then from there, I'm going to actually switch this shot out with the ARRI look on it. All right, well, let's switch over to that footage. So here I am in glorious ungraded S-Log2. I'll show you in a sec how to take me out of S-Log2 into Rec 709. So I mean, that's what these LUTs are doing, right? They're also doing that color space conversion from S-Log2 or log footage to Rec 709. So that's coming up in a second. A couple little notes. One of which being, it's not just S-Log2, you're going to want to go into your default color settings or your picture profile settings and make sure that color in your S-Log2 profile or your S-Log3 profile, depending on what Sony camera you're using, you're going to want to make sure that color is set to sgamut3.cine. If you buy the LUTs, Joel's got a PDF that outlines all of this very thoroughly. Another thing about shooting your video, for me anyway, it's really worked out by setting my custom zebras to 106 for S-Log2 and just bringing my exposure up, so you're starting to see the zebras, and just dropping myself down you know, a stop or two, and it seems to work just great. Obviously, white balance has a huge impact on the colors that you're going to get. He recommends that you use 5000 Kelvin for daylight exteriors. Actually, he recommends 5500 Kelvin for daylight exteriors, daylight interiors 5000 Kelvin, nighttime interiors 4300 Kelvin. I've got my camera right now set to 4200 Kelvin. That's what I normally shoot my episodes with. I've got my light over here set to 4200 Kelvin as well as the camera. So let's just hop on screen here and I'll show you how to get me out of these dull colors here. So here we are in DaVinci Resolve. Of course, you can use any editing software that you like, Premiere, Final Cut, what have you, anything that supports LUTs basically. So first thing that we're going to want to do is go to File, then go to the project settings, and then I've got the tab for color management already selected. It might be here, so I'm going to go to color management here at the top. I believe this is the default DaVinci YRGB. That's what we want to keep it to. There are other ones here. Just make sure that you're not on one of these. Color managed, what that actually does is it'll automatically convert to Rec 709 for you. We don't want that because that's what we're doing with our LUT. Anyway, so these here are all the same. If you go to the bottom here, we're going to want to go to 3D lookup table interpolation. Make sure that's set to tetrahedral. Now, all this is outlined in the PDF that you'll get with the LUTs if you buy Joel's LUTs. But set it to tetrahedral. You're going to also want to do this if you are a Premiere user. I believe, though, in Final Cut, tetrahedral is set by default. Now, if you haven't got your LUT installed, DaVinci people are going to want to go to Open LUT folder. That's going to open the folder that your LUTs are saved in your Finder, and then you're going to want to drag wherever you've saved your LUTs into that folder, and they'll show up when your LUTs show up in Resolve. So here we are on the edit page. If you don't see me doing something, that's because I'm on the other monitor. Anything critical and I'll switch over to that monitor, so no worries. I'm just going to drag in that footage that we shot, or that I shot. I'm going to just unlink that and and just kill the audio in that. We don't need that right now. Now I'm going to hop over to the color page. I like to add a serial node on this first, so I'm going to right click, add node, serial, and then we can hop over to the other screen, and I'll show you what's going on over there. So on the other monitor, I've got my LUTs directory here on the left. I'm just going to pop that open. I'm going to scroll down to the folders with the LUTs in them. Now these folder names are different because I've changed them myself, so if you buy these LUTs, don't get confused. I've just changed the names to something I prefer. Here are the film looks. A couple of those that I mentioned that I really like. The Vision Teal, that was the one that Harv used for doing his Norway footage, which looked fantastic. We've got the Eterna here, and the Eastman RM, which I also really liked. But we're going to want to go to this one over here. This is the conversion LUTs, and it's got some artistic ones in here too that he's done. So it's basically just the straight neutral conversion, and then he's done a little bit of color work on them to give us a few different looks for people who are just buying this pack. What we're going to go with is the neutral legacy. He said it's up to your discretion whether you want to use legacy or the newer one, and I've just found that legacy has been working for me, so that's the one that I'm using. There's a small difference between the legacy one and the other one. You know, if you're using one of the S-Log2 LUTs or the ones labeled with S-Log2, you're using the correct LUT for your camera if you're using an 8-bit camera. And ignore all that if you're using a 10-bit camera. I'm going to take that neutral legacy and drag it over to our serial node. So popping over to the other monitor. So as you can see, things look a little different over here already. Joel has designed these so you have to do as little work as possible. I've probably pushed the exposure to the maximum here, so I'm going to drop it down a little bit. Now when I do a change like a color change, I like to put that maybe on a separate node. If I'm doing an exposure change, I'll put that on a separate node. That's just the way I like to work, so I'm actually going to add another serial node to this. And then on that serial node, I'm going to go down to my wheels over here. I'm going to drop the lift a little bit. I'm also looking at my RGB parade on my other monitor, and I'm just going to introduce those blacks that I love so much. I actually don't mind those highlights too much, but I'm just going to pull them a little further into a safe zone over here. Oh, like right about there. And there we have it. If I pop over to our edit window, yeah, things aren't looking too bad. So in hindsight, looking at the test footage that I did outside, maybe no Glimmer Glass 3. We had this issue in Toronto where the skies can just be completely white at certain times of the year. This is sort of when it's starting during the winter too. It happens. You see very little detail in the sky, and the Glimmer Glass was not helping, and it's just obscuring any detail that's, the little detail that's there in the sky. So maybe Glimmer Glass 1 maybe outside, and that was sort of what was recommended to me. It just, for this talking head stuff, I didn't really see any differences with Glimmer Glass 1, so I thought that I'd go a little heavier with the Glimmer Glass 3. Maybe just keep that for the episodes. Forget the Glimmer Glass 3 outdoors, and even for the nighttime stuff, because like the bloom that you get off lights is just like over the top. So what am I taking away from this? My thoughts and my conclusions. Well, I'm not going to be using that filter again outside. Apart from that, the LUTs themselves, I think they look fantastic. There's a couple of them in there that I'm a real fan of as far as the look goes, and I think would probably work really well for the Iceland video. Am I sold on using them for Iceland, or even using neutral for my episodes? I'm not sure about that. The issue in Iceland is going to be, I'm going to be shooting with like 3 or 4 different cameras. I'm going to have to color match between them all. Joel only has LUTs for one of those cameras I'll be shooting with. Now there are tools like Film Convert Nitrate, and they have color profiles for all my cameras. So that may be the easiest way to go, so to avoid that difficulty. But I really do like the way things look after putting them through Joel's LUTs. So what were my favorite LUTs in those 2 packs? Now, I didn't go through all of the LUTs, obviously, in my sample footage that I showed you, but Eterna is definitely one of them. That's Fuji Eterna. I've always been a fan of Eterna, so much so that I was even contemplating changing systems over to Fuji just because of the film emulation that you've got in camera that you can switch to. Like, it just looks so good. It's always just looked so good to me. The Eastman RM LUT was really nice looking in Joel's pack. Harv actually used the teal one in some footage that he recently did in Norway, and as soon as I saw that, I thought, wow, that's a real viable one for the Iceland trip that we're doing. So as always, I hope you got something out of this one. I myself personally really enjoy color tests. I know I'm a weirdo, but I do. Anyway, yeah, if you like this, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If not, that's okay too. Maybe you'd like to subscribe if you haven't yet. That would be fantastic. No pressure. But it is nice to know that people are appreciating these videos. And if you've got actually ideas for future episodes, please leave that in the comments below. Until next time, keep working to make your chosen idea a reality. All right then, peace.